Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Robert Lee. Happy Friday. Glad to have you here and excited to dive into today's topic, which is how to grow your podcast audience. I'm really excited. In a few minutes, you're going to be meeting Kate Young from Purdue University, and she is the host, the producer for This is Purdue. And you'll see her, and she'll be talking a little bit. Well, here she is. And she'll be introducing her show, and we'll dig into how Purdue has handled podcast growth. And we'll bring up the deck in just a second here. All right. And we'll make it bigger. Okay. Almost there. There we go. Could you go to the next slide, Josh? Appreciate it. And I hope you can't hear that, but there's a cat next to me that's growling at me because I forgot to feed her. But I'm going to assume you can't hear that. All right. So as we get into this, we have a takeaway doc. So this takeaway doc is a great place to keep your notes, and it is also an outline of what we're going to go through today. You can reach that takeaway doc via the QR code in the bottom left-hand corner. But I've also attached oh, you did hear that. Oh, sorry. I'm reading this chat now. Okay, sorry. But also in the chat, you'll be able to see a Linktree link to this takeaway doc and some other goodies. I want to also say the way I approach live sessions is kind of like a live podcast recording in some sense. So I'll be asking Kate questions. I highly encourage you guys as a live audience to pitch in with your own questions, and we'll just answer them as we go along. So no need to wait until the end of the presentation per se. All right. Next slide, please. There we go. Okay. So I'll just say really quickly, if you don't know about us, I come from University FM, which is a podcast production agency just for higher ed. And as you said, we have Kate Young with us today. Really excited to have you, Kate. Kate, you want to say a few words about yourself, and then we can also give people some context about the show.
Yes, thank you for having me, Robert, my fellow Big Ten friend. We won't get into the competition there, but my name's Kate. I am from Purdue University. I went to Purdue University, graduated from there. So this show is very near and dear to my heart. I know all of the things that make Purdue Purdue. I know the culture. I've drank the Kool-Aid, right? So I think it was important for Purdue and this marketing and communications team to bring on someone who was an alum and knows things about Purdue that maybe the average person listening who isn't an alum wouldn't know. So that was really important. I have a background in broadcast journalism. I've worked in a newsroom. I've worked in startups. I've worked in corporate life. Now I'm in higher ed. So I've dabbled in a couple different things, but I've been in professional podcasting now over 5 years. So started again in that startup world so really thankful for those experiences and kind of how to be scrappy and saving all the money and building the plane as it flies, as we used to say. So it's been really cool to take that experience in podcasting and now bring it to a larger corporation and a massive higher ed institute like Purdue. So thank you again for having me.
Wonderful. All right, let's keep on going. All right. I'll just open really quickly by saying, in our promotion of this live session, one of the things to keep in mind is This is Purdue has reached all the way up to number 2 on Apple's education charts, Apple Podcast education charts, which is amazing, especially for an alumni podcast. And you hear some other things about This is Purdue. Go ahead, Kate.
Yeah, so this podcast started as an idea back in 2020 before, we all know what happened in March of 2020. So in January of 2020, a grad student started it as a part-time member of the marketing and communications team. Again, we're part of that central marketing and communications team for all of Purdue. So we handle, the social media channels, we handle press releases, we have the podcast, we have this incredible storytelling website. So again, a grad student started it. She graduated in May, took a role elsewhere, and they started the search for a full-time employee. And the the CMO at the time really felt that podcasting was growing and it was the thing to, they got into it, but it was the thing to stick with and keep consistent. And they saw that kind of future of podcasting. I believe it took them a year or so to find the right person. They really hit on, we don't want to hire, a news reporter. We want to hire someone who knows podcasting. And luckily, like I said, I had that startup experience. I worked for two different companies within B2B professional podcasting. So they reached out on LinkedIn and the rest is history. It was such an honor for me to be able to host the show. Previously in my roles, I was kind of the executive producer. I did a lot of writing, I did a lot of the marketing, but to be able to own that hosting role and be able to talk about my alma mater has been just incredibly special. So obviously the strategy, the social media, the video evolution that we've had with This Is Purdue has just, skyrocketed. So I'll go through some of that here, but we just hit 100 episodes yesterday. So this is such a fun time for me to be on here. It was a huge milestone. I'm sure if any of you have a podcast, you probably know how hard it is to get 30 episodes out the door, let alone 100. So that's been, again, about 4 years now of this evolution. So I'll talk a little bit about what we did for our 100th celebration too. So who listens? So definitely a lot of alumni. We're gearing this towards, we want our alumni to feel that nostalgia. We want them to feel that, wow, my alma mater is making these huge advancements in the world. They're doing this research that's life-changing. Their basketball team is incredible, right? Any athletics fans out there? So we always love highlighting our athletics coaches and teams too, because those do really well because people remember, going to a basketball game or going to a football game. And Big Ten, it's all in that culture and in that lifestyle. So the other target audience that we have is faculty and staff. We get a lot of feedback from our incredible staff, a lot of ideas from them, right? So, and then the third would be students and parents of students. So when we're putting clips out on Facebook, when we're, putting things on LinkedIn, we're kind of also gearing that towards, these people who have high school kids and are thinking about where to go to college, and they see this incredible clip from the podcast. They might be like, hey, let's take Johnny over to a Purdue visit, right? So that's a little bit about our audience who listens. Quick stats, we see about 3,500 downloads per episode. Of course, certain ones, have 8,000, certain ones might only have 2,000, but that's about the average. For our short form videos, I'm going to get into YouTube here. We see, again, this is an average around 40,000 views for those 1 minute trailer clips that we produce. Some of them, again, with our athletics, or if it's Coach Painter, people like that, we're going to see 80, 100,000 views. So again, it depends, but those are some quick stats about the show.
Cool. Thanks for that context, Kate. All right. So the agenda today, 3 pieces: the baseline, distribution, marketing, and community building. Usually when people come to me and ask me about audience growth, the first thought that comes to mind is this distribution marketing piece. But in reality, for audience growth, it starts before that. So there's some baseline conditions around consistency for publishing, for quality, evaluating what types of stories to actually include and talk about, and being very clear on choosing what you're measuring so that you can align your what you're doing to an ultimate goal. So we'll be talking about that, distribution marketing. This is Purdue has an amazing YouTube strategy. That's a pretty heavy component, I'd say. So there's video, some more conversation about how to repurpose content, bring back old episodes. And then lastly, this community building piece, which is how do you cultivate a relationship with listeners so that, once they tune in one time, they'll come back for a future episode. So that'll be campus partners, more local events, and then other ways to get the audience involved. So let's start with the baseline. These are the conditions that are in place before getting to the promotional phase. And here are the 3 bullets again, but I'm going to start with the middle one. So evaluating engaging and fun ideas. Kate, I'm sure you guys have a ton of ideas, a ton of stories to cover across Purdue University. How do you decide which ones to cover, which ones to talk about?
Yeah, this is a question I get often. This is actually part of our 100th episode. We had a listener call in and ask that, and we kicked off the episode with that because friends, family, anyone I talk to, any students I run into, that's usually their first question. So, luckily, a lot of you are probably in the same boat of like higher ed institutions. There's really no shortage of stories. There's always new faculty, new professors, new alumni doing incredible things, students, even events on campus. But we really focus on, our presidential initiatives. What is our President Mung Chiang focusing on, and what can we highlight as part of that? Purdue's a big STEM school. There's a lot of STEM stories. There's a lot of we'll get into the research series, but that was an idea that stemmed from some presidential initiatives, some of the research coming out of Purdue that is simply just world class. But then we want to balance with some fun ideas, right? We want to feature those athletic stories. We always have, at least once a year, we'll take a quarterback from our cradle of quarterbacks and do an interview with them. So we have, Jim Everett, we had Curtis Painter. So these are men that went on and were NFL quarterbacks too. So we kind of have that like SEO star power that we are so blessed with to have for some of those guests. So that's always fun. Again, alumni. We had the president of Pizza Hut US is a Purdue grad, and his PR firm reached out to us and said, "Hey, how do we get David on the show?" And I'm like, "I didn't know the president of Pizza Hut went to Purdue. We would absolutely love to have him on the show." So what did we do? We went to Pizza Hut and we recorded. He came down from Dallas. We met at an Indiana Pizza Hut at 6 a.m. and recorded this incredible interview. We were in the back making pizzas. So there are certain episodes, of course, that you can have a little bit more fun with, a little bit more creative, juices flowing for sure. But again, we just focus on what are people talking about at Purdue? What are our initiatives as a university? What do we want? If some random person is listening to This Is Purdue, what do we want them to glean about the Purdue brand and who we are as an institution? So, I
Yeah,
do want to talk about our research series really quick, if you don't mind, Robert.
please.
So last year we started this research series. It was 4 episodes. We're going to do it again this year. But what we did with those was we found faculty within Purdue who are researching things that are changing the world. So they're providing practical solutions to the world's toughest challenges. So some of those things can be as simple as world hunger. We have food science professors within our agriculture department that are literally solving things about food sustainability, food security. There's a picture right there of Danny Milosavljevic. He is an incredible professor. Every student loves him. We had been hearing his name for a while pop up, and he works on NASA's James Webb Space Telescope. So he's been on, CBS, he's been on CNN, he's been in all these incredible national TV interviews. So of course he was, first of all, he was natural, he was incredible. But it was one of our most popular episodes because what is Purdue without the ties to space, to Neil Armstrong, right? So that's a big pillar of something that Purdue stands for. So anything with the space ties always does really well. But that research series, we took that and then we kind of like labeled it differently, and we did a little bit different tweaks to the brand. So you'll see there the Purdue Research Series on that social graphic so that our listeners know. And then also in our Apple and Spotify feed and on our website, it says Purdue Research Series followed by the title. So they know that this isn't a typical episode. It's a little bit special. It has different musical twists. It has different sound effects. So those 4 episodes, we really took the time to craft the strategy and how we could make that different and showcase these 4 really special researchers at Purdue and why people should care too, right? So that was something that was a challenge that the team met and accomplished, and we're going to do it again this year. So
Amazing. So that's a very that's a great way to highlight a short series within the overall podcast show.
exactly.
Early on, you mentioned some shows have like 2,000 an episode. Some episodes have 2,000 an episode. Others have 8,000 downloads an episode. Is there some big overall trend or theme for like connecting why those 8,000 level type episodes do so well?
Yeah, I kind of touched on it earlier. So it's a little bit of SEO, right? We have an episode coming out that we interviewed the HR director at Ford. So we're putting Ford Motor Company in the title, right? So Pizza Hut. It's a big national brand, international brand, really. But so how can you take these really impressive guests and craft these titles that have the SEO power, make people want to click and listen, right? So some of the show notes, the keywords that you're putting into those. Um, Again, anything with athletics, just people are drawn to it. People love thinking back when I went to this game versus University of Michigan, and we had Robbie Hummel, and we had so just thinking of the different times in your college life and career that you have these memories, walking into the big football stadium for the first time. So there is a definitely a level of appeal that comes with interviewing those coaches, those players, and just that nostalgia feeling.
Yeah, the nostalgia factor. One of the things I always come back to is how well an episode or show resonates with its audience, right? Because that's really the core of this baseline slide, making sure that the content resonates and building off of it. So in this case, for this Purdue Alumni podcast primarily, right, there's this reminiscing aspect, and I'm sure there's a lot of pride that comes with, Pizza Hut and NASA, these amazing innovators coming from Purdue. All right. So let's talk a little bit about choosing what to measure. So we have downloads of YouTube views here. Oh, so still back one. But yeah, Kate, why were those two kind of the most important for your team?
Yeah, I think obviously listens matter. How many people are listening to your show, right? And I have a couple stats if anyone's interested. And I always try to hit home when I worked in that B2B space. I worked on shows that were getting 70 downloads an episode. So I didn't start with 3,500 downloads an episode, right? We've built up This Is Purdue through all these different ways, which is the whole point of this webinar, right? How to grow your podcast audience. But I think the listens are important to track and to keep, again, if you release an athletics episode that has 1,000 more downloads, like, is it really that much more popular, or is it because it's a household name, or is it because NASA was in the title for one of our scientists? So you can kind of, pay attention, see different trends. Maybe that title wasn't catchy enough. Maybe people didn't resonate with this guest or with this subject. So we track listens. We also track YouTube views. That's a really big component. Also, I have a YouTube team that helps me with this, luckily. But how far? Because everyone knows in podcasting we don't have the data that a lot of people want to see, or your bosses want to see, right? So how can we use our YouTube videos that we're repurposing from podcast episodes to get that story? So how long are they watching the video? Are they clicking out of it after 30 seconds, or is it a 95% view rate? So we definitely dig into those in our monthly reporting, but views are important. And then of course, just having YouTube to see those trends, we've experimented a lot with, like, do we do a 5-minute clip or do we do a 2-minute clip? And usually it's a 2 to 3-minute clip is what we've settled on, that seems to perform the best. So you can take those YouTube views and kind of tell a story with those, and kind of create your strategy around those different metrics and stats that you're seeing.
So here's an interesting question from the audience. So John here mentioned that he finds it hard to distinguish if a spike in listens is because of the pedigree of the guest or the topic itself. How have you tried to distinguish that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, sometimes I'm stumped myself, right? There are episodes, I will say, there are episodes that I have purposefully released around, let's say, a holiday, because I'm like, I don't think this episode is that fascinating personally. But then it does super well, and it shocks all of us, and it's just kind of, it was a different sector of our audience, I guess, that was really interested in something like that. So um I can't always distinguish. I don't have the best answer, John. I apologize, but I will say usually the pedigree of the guest, Pizza Hut president, NASA scientist, like, Big Ten coach, those you can probably glean that those are doing well because of the guest itself. The other thing again with YouTube is like since we can see those, okay, when are they dropping off? How far along are they getting? Are they watching the full video clip? That might be a little bit like, okay, wow, a lot of people dropped off here. So I guess they found this part of what the guest was saying was interesting, but then they lost interest or they got bored, right? So paying attention to if you have that YouTube strategy, paying attention to that. I'm also kind of trying to like leave more on the cutting room floor, as they say. I used to feel like I would put anything the guest said in the episode, and I'm trying to be a little bit more trying to back away from that because it is what the guest's saying. Is that going to be relevant to the audience? At the end of the day, does it really matter? And if the answer is no, and usually you can tell right away, or it's kind of like a quick gut check, I kind of try to cut things down a little bit because a 55-minute episode, I'm not sure that people are listening all the way through for that. So kind of trying to craft your content and think of in your head, am I getting bored? Do I understand this? And then having some of that content potentially cut if the answer is, yeah, I think the episode could still be wonderful without this segment in it.
Right. Okay. So we're going to move on here. So and to start, we're going to dig into YouTube strategy. Mentioned that a few times. All right. Josh, can we go to the next slide here? So, yeah, you guys actually have a totally separate channel for the podcast itself. Interested in how that decision came to be. And then definitely the podcast space or generally media, lots of conversation around the impact of short video versus long form. So let's start there, Kate. How did you guys decide to have your own YouTube channel, and what's this balance between short and long?
Sure. So I got to Purdue in March of 2021. It was still, kind of peak COVID times. But we had the opportunity to interview our then president, Mitch Daniels, who is a former Indiana governor. A lot of people know him, again, with that household name, kind of in Indiana, right? So they're like, we're going in with the full video. We're going to get photos. We're going to get video content to keep repurposing. The podcast is a perfect chance to do that. So that was our first video interview. And from there, it really, truly exploded. And it was kind of like, okay, Kate has this news background. She's comfortable being on camera. We have this incredible video team who can do these huge setups that look like you're straight out of, 60 Minutes. So we kind of just ran with it, and we started putting these clips and these full video interviews, that full like 30, 35, 40-minute conversation with the guest onto Purdue's YouTube channel, like the flagship channel, if you will, that has, thousands and thousands of subscribers. So what was happening though is that we kept creating so much content that that Purdue's YouTube channel was essentially like podcast. And, we want to feature student content. We want to feature all different videos that our teams are creating and all the different strategies of the different projects we're working on. So we talked about branching off and creating our own YouTube channel for the podcast. So we did that in January of 2023. So we're at exactly a year now. We have 540 subscribers, millions of views. It takes a while to grow. It's just like a podcast, right? But if we're putting all this effort into gathering this video content and we can take all these little clips and have these digestible nuggets, why wouldn't we have our own YouTube channel and manage that? So it's been a huge success. It's a lot easier for me and the team to track instead of going through all of Purdue's other videos, right? So like we know that this YouTube channel is the podcast. It's, my face on it. This is Purdue, all logo branded so that people know, what they're coming to, what they can expect to see. So we're really focusing right now on YouTube Shorts. We have been for the past probably 6 months. And so how can we take, have our social team member come to the interviews and get video on her phone and produce these 60-second videos that we can also repurpose though into Instagram Reels. So Purdue doesn't have a TikTok. So we're really big on Instagram Reels. So how can we promote the podcast on Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts? And we've found that you can, you know, use the same video and put them in two different places. So killing two birds with one stone. But that's something that's been really fun. So what we'll do is we'll grab the guest afterwards and usually have, you know, like a rapid fire question, or right there is our dean of our new business school, Jim Bullard. He's formerly of the St. Louis Fed. They're really, you know, again, a household name, big deal. We had him break down 3 really complex economic topics. What does inflation mean? Why are we seeing high gas prices? And he's answering them. And then, you know, we put it, it's a YouTube video, but it's also kind of a fun student geared video for Instagram Reels and for that platform. Any questions so far on any of that? Oh, Robert, you're muted. Do you want me to keep going?
Darn, I thought I wasn't going to do that, but I did it. Yeah, so Kate, there is a question related here. How well does your social promotion convert to pod listenership and downloads? And did it shift when you incorporated video?
Great question. It did shift. The other thing that's interesting with YouTube is that we started taking these, we call them trailers. They're like movie trailers, right? So we take the top kind of hits from the episode, and it is a little bit, you know, clickbaity, like there's plenty of examples on our YouTube, but those kind of like quick hitting things that you're like, oh wait, what did he say? Or I want to learn more about that. And we create this video that promotes the episode. But then we also started posting that on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter and Instagram. So we saw that obviously on social media, you know, people are very video geared. They like seeing that. So, you know, we were seeing more clicks over to our website where the podcast is hosted. So we have definitely seen that shift when you incorporate video. And it doesn't have to be this big setup like we're doing for some of our episodes. We do plenty of virtual interviews with that side-by-side video, just like Robert and I are talking right now to you all spread around the country. So you can take that virtual video and turn that into plenty of promotional things. There's like waves, you know, audio waves that you can create with a really solid clip from a guest. So I would definitely recommend that. I think it really helps your social strategy. I meet frequently with our social media team, and we really work hand in hand when it comes to what's the next guest, what are they like, what's something fun or creative we could do with them based on their expertise. So I see here, how many different videos do you create per episode?
Yeah.
It depends. We have at least 3. Now sometimes we have like 6. So that's a YouTube short. That's 2 longer clips for YouTube. So when I say longer, that's like 1:30 to 3 minutes. We have our the other thing that is really beneficial that started this whole YouTube thing too, to be honest, was putting that audio episode onto YouTube as that, and then it's like that wave form that's just moving. There's no actual video. It's just a really great graphic, like the one you all can see here, like top right for me. So putting just a waveform on that, but having your full episode that you worked so hard on that you want people to listen to. People listen to podcasts on YouTube. So why not take the 30 minutes to do something like that and have your full episode, your full product onto YouTube? So that's always part of our strategy. So that's always a video we're posting. And then of course that trailer that I talked about, that's 60 seconds or less.
Yeah, people do listen to podcasts on YouTube, which is interesting. And there are some studies out there that actually say YouTube is currently the largest platform that people listen to podcasts on.
Yeah, Robert, you and I went to Podcast Movement. Like it was all about YouTube, it felt like.
All about YouTube. All right, let's do this follow-up question on videos here. So also from Francis, what cadence do you use to release the videos? All at once, one a week?
Yeah. Great question. So The trailer goes out the morning that the episode goes out. That trailer, again, it's all over our social media. That's the first post that people see to introduce this new episode. It also sits on our each podcast episode page on our website. So it's there. It's a minute. We used to put the full like longer episodes on there or longer clips, and we decided to just keep it simple and have that 60-second trailer on there consistently. And again, that's kind of the top hits of the episode and what hopefully will make people want to click and listen to the full thing. Then the next day we release that full audio episode. So the day after it's on Apple, Spotify, etc., it goes onto YouTube. And then I play around with like Tuesday, Thursday, I'll scatter them around for the longer clips. We found that YouTube Shorts, if we post them at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock at night, schedule them out, they do really well. People are scrolling at night. So that's the takeaway that we've had. So we started doing all of our YouTube Shorts. We post those at night. So we do not drop them all at once. It's definitely like maybe an every other day. We usually don't release anything on weekends, although we might start playing around with that. So you could drop them all at once, but why not? We kind of like spread the love and try to get extra views and subscribers as we go with each episode.
That's an interesting takeaway. Yeah, nighttime scrolling makes sense. I mean, I do it. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's dig into this repurposing content aspect. So, hey, you just reached 100 episodes. There's a whole 99, older episodes. How do you approach bringing old content back?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a couple of things we do. At the end of each year, we take the 4 or 5 most popular episodes and repurpose and show, have old clips from the episode. I'll talk through each guest, kind of like reintroduce them because, for example, I mean, last March we released that David Graves episode, who's the president of Pizza Hut. We had all this fun background noise. We had pizzas being made. We had video that was incredible. And so come December, a lot of people probably are new to the show or they just found out about it. So I want them to hear that from March, right? So we do that every December. It's very beneficial. We'll either do one like that's centered around athletics guests and one that's more on the education side. This year we did a summary of all 4 of our research series episodes, which again, those were sprinkled out throughout the summer and fall. And so if we have new listeners, it's a great way to introduce them to the research series. We tease the research series for next year. Stay tuned. We're going to have 4 or 5 more episodes like this. So that's a great way to repurpose content. Another thing our social team is incredible about is recently it was our football coach's birthday on a Sunday. So they're like, hey, we're going to have all these posts and share the link to the podcast and say happy birthday, Coach Walter. So simple things like that. We have kind of a long story, but our basketball team, we've done a couple of episodes with them, like the parents of the players, the coaches, etc. But our team is ranked number 2 right now. They were ranked number 1. So like, how can we kind of reinvigorate some of those older episodes? Coach Katie recently was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Did a bunch of posts about that. So think of like relevant things that you can tie back your episodes to, as simple as a birthday, right? So those are some examples of how we repurpose content.
What has the reaction been like to those repurposed pieces of content?
Yeah, I mean, I think the basketball one sticks out to me because we recently did that. So one of our basketball players dresses up like Buddy the Elf to raise like it's like a food drive, and then you can raise money for this charity. So I interviewed parents, and they started releasing these Buddy the Elf videos again in December because he's doing it for the 2nd year. And so I'm like, we got to jump on this. Like, people are very into this again. It's hilarious. Coach Painter's involved. So we were retweeting with our campus partner, the basketball team, work very closely with athletics. We were taking their content and resharing it and then like putting that podcast link. So definitely, again, people who weren't listening to the show back in March are like, oh, whoa, they did a podcast episode with some of these players' parents. How cool. I want to hear what it's like to follow the team around and what their experience is like as a parent watching their kid on this incredibly successful team right now. So that's a great example of one that did well. Even if it's just like engagement, like, oh, people responding, "Happy birthday, Coach Walters," and like retweeting that episode, then their network sees the episode and the
Mm.
podcast branding. So really simple, and like we used old copy that we already have. So it's you've already done all that work. So how can you repurpose, use all this incredible video, use all this copy that you've already worked on?
Yeah, sounds like the key is high relevancy, being as relevant as possible. All right, so before we go on to the last section, I just want to see, Kate, is there something quick you want to mention about podcast promotion kits?
Yeah. So again, working with your campus partners. So working with the College of Engineering, the School of Education, when we have a guest who graduated and is an alum from one of those entities, making sure that they share the episode, that they get this content into their content calendars. And so we package it up really nicely. There's a photo of it for the football coach and for one of our research series, but we put it on our website, and all you have to do is share the link with them. It's a marketing content package, we call it. And we do this for all different projects, not just the podcast. But from there, they can download the zip file of all the graphics, and they can literally copy and paste that social copy that we've already spent spent all this time writing. And it's a really, really easy way for them to like beef up their content calendars, but also share relevant information. Hey, this chemistry teacher is doing these really cool Halloween experiments, and he graduated from the School of Education, and he's a teacher now, and he has millions of followers on social media. So they can take all of that content, again, that we've worked so hard on, and simply use it. We want them to use it. And then, of course, sending the kind of our episode is live podcast kit the morning the episode goes out to the guest.
Mhm.
We pay attention to anyone the guest mentions in the episode, maybe a favorite professor. If they work at a larger corporation, send it to their PR team, their communications team there, and hopefully the company will share on their behalf. Because sometimes, as some of you might know, like the guest is shy or they're humble, they don't want to brag, they don't want to post about it. So who can we get to post about it like for them and brag for them? So that's part of our distribution efforts too.
All right, great. Let's move on. The last piece here, community building. So, yep, say you have some people who found about the podcast or listen to an episode. Now, how do we build a relationship with them? So, you mentioned a little bit about campus partners, and let's talk in detail about what this golf outing is and what Merchant Campus Bar means in relation to the podcast.
Yeah, so this is kind of there's a little bit of a student aspect here, an angle here, because sometimes we get feedback. I didn't know we had a podcast, so how can we get some of our students involved and interested in the show? Now, the golf outing comes from people within the department who like to golf and go to golf outings, using the podcast as a sponsor. So getting our logo out there, there's my friend Carly and I sitting there. We were handing out little branded golf divot tools. So
Yeah.
everyone who came up to the booth, here you go, and here's the podcast, and here's the QR code. You can pull it up on Apple, you can pull it up on Spotify. And then part of that specific, we've done a couple different golf tournaments like this, but part of that one involved me emceeing the golf tournament luncheon and interviewing Matt Painter, which we then repurposed and put it all over our YouTube page. So that was kind of a little sweet deal that was mixed in there, but it turned out great. Alumni who were golfing in this tournament were like, I didn't know we had a podcast. I love listening to podcasts. I have a 45-minute commute. Great. I'm going to start listening. So simple kind of tactics, and some of them do involve, a little bit of funds, right? A little bit of paid strategy. But the other great example, we just did this in the fall. There's an alum who graduated from Purdue, but he also is an incredible musician. And every week at this local campus bar, he does like the dueling piano singing, and he makes up lyrics to songs that you all would know and love. But he has this massive following. Thousands of people on Facebook, thousands of people on Twitter, Instagram. And they, like, if you talk to someone who went to Purdue and you say, like Piano Man Bruce, everyone knows him. So he retired. So we kind of like sent him out with a bang. So we went to do the interview at this local bar before it opened. Okay. So, but then we also got some B roll of him in his element, at 9 p.m. doing his thing. And that was part of the episode. So it's a great episode to check out, even if you don't know much about Purdue. It's like the different, he makes up like dance moves. And again, it's just that like nostalgic feeling of, I remember when I was at the Cactus and I was out on Thursday night with my friends. So we hung up posters all throughout the bar, all throughout campus to get students there to celebrate the Thursday that his episode came out. And we gave the first 100 students t-shirts. So again, I didn't know we had a podcast. Oh my gosh, I want a t-shirt. What is this? And they had to simply pull up Apple or Spotify and click follow, and they got a free t-shirt. So taking kind of some of these fun episodes, like more lighthearted episodes, and doing that promotion, having that like community. I speak at a lot of different classes at Purdue, trying to get people more involved. We have different ad reads that we broadcast at like football games on the radio and at over the PA at our basketball games. So it's my voice reading an ad, and maybe it's a clip of Coach Painter being on the podcast. So little things like that are inexpensive, pretty easy lifts, right? I host some of the basketball games, and I'll kind of slip in there like, I'm the podcast host too. Like, so again, things that are easy lifts, but you're creating that community. You have people asking about the show. The last basketball game I did, a couple students are like, "You look familiar," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's the podcast." They're like, "Oh yeah, the podcast." So just kind of being out there. If any of you are hosts, get out of your comfort zone, I guess, and be open to some of these cool opportunities. And really, I'm lucky that Purdue lets me kind of own that aspect too, of creating that community and speaking to classes and trying to get more people interested.
Let's move into this invited audience piece. Your chance to ask questions. So that's a very direct, like, audience engagement with the audio itself. So
Yeah.
please explain what is your chance and how do you guys coordinate that?
Yeah. So the giveaways part too. So we have giveaways on our Instagram. Again, we have some merch. We have hats, Nike hats. We have t-shirts. We have laptop stickers. So students love free stuff. Like you all know. So we go to different like booths on campus, or if there's a big event, homecoming in the spring, that kind of stuff. We'll sit there at a booth, kind of similar to that golf outing, and do giveaways and just kind of educate students and their families on the show. Getting the audience involved. So this is something that we did to celebrate our 100th, is we polled our audience on, podcasts leading up to the 100th, and then also all over our social media channels of like, what questions do you have? We'll share behind the scenes stories. What was your favorite episode and why? So then we took that audio, and it's a part of the episode. So I know, like, there's celebrity shows that do that and stuff, but people get a kick out of hearing their own voice and, being featured as part of the podcast. So it was a great way to feature our listeners and highlight them. But it was a great way to also bring team members. I brought them in and made them step onto the stage with me, get on the mic with me. So we had different team members. Our video team, like, they are such an integral part of this team, and they never get to, speak up and kind of get all that glory that they did. I interviewed 2 of our video team members, our social media manager, and just to reflect and kind of share like the behind the scenes, but also showcasing our listeners and having them get excited. Like, I think I'm going to be on this episode. I can't wait for it to come out. So that was a really fun way to highlight, the people that are the reason that I'm here today. So that was a really fun way to celebrate our 100th.
Okay, let's go to the next slide here. And that's the conclusion of the agenda. So I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody for joining in. Here's some contact information for myself and Kate, I don't have yours on there actually, but you can definitely find her contact info if you Google it. This QR code to the right, so it's the same QR code that's been presented throughout this deck. So it'll link you to This is Purdue podcast. It'll also link you to the Word on Campus podcast, which is a show that I host that Kate came on. So there's some more fun stuff about This Purdue there. Some podcast guidebooks for how to go about different production processes, and then lastly a Professor Stone podcast network. So that's a new thing. So that's a podcast network just for scholar hosted shows. If you're interested, you find value from this session, we have some more upcoming sessions on a monthly basis. So the next one's going to be about how to engage faculty with podcasting, more of a media relations aspect, and then how to repurpose your podcast content with ease, and lastly, how to set up your podcast production tools and production flow. So a little bit more on the tactile aspect of things. Kate just popped her contact in the chat here, so you can find her there. Otherwise, I want to give, 5 seconds. Does anybody else have questions they want to ask?
I did see a question about the length of our episodes I wanted to address really quickly.
Okay, yeah.
Great question. I think that, prior to COVID, we saw it was kind of like 25 minutes was a good average time for a podcast because that was the average commute time. But now we're seeing podcasts that are an hour and a half. I think it just depends. But mainly for This is Purdue, we're looking at 30 to 40 minutes. Our 100th episode was 50 minutes just because we were trying to get all that listener content in there. But usually I talk to the guests and have that interview and conversation for about 35 minutes. Some of them are longer, but I think that's kind of the sweet spot for us is that 30 to 40 minutes. And we try to stick to that because I just think this isn't a show that you need to be listening to for 2 hours, right? There's a time and a place and shows for that. But how often do I release new episodes? Every other Thursday. So it's a bi-weekly show, 2, sometimes 3 a month, depending, of course. But every other week. I would highly suggest if you're starting a show, start it monthly or start it every other week, like what we're doing, because you'll find that weekly is a lot of work. It can lead to burnout. It can lead to, you don't have as many fresh ideas and everything. So I think it's quality over quantity for us. We're producing these incredibly high quality videos and audio episodes and perfecting the audio and putting in different sound effects and music and stuff like that. So if you want a high quality product, I would recommend maybe not starting with weekly.
Yeah, don't underestimate it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, thank you again, everybody, and thank you, Kate, for coming in here. Appreciate it.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much. I really had fun.
All right, buddy. Have an amazing Friday, and hope to see you at the next session.